In this episode, I'm going to share with you who I am, but also who I am not. This is a much deeper conversation than meets the eye, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself by listening in. So stick around. I'm Adam Kiddoo, and it's time to master the art of real heart alignment, where you live, work, and play from your personal power as energy aligns, your gifts flow, and life simply works. These life-changing conversations are designed to help you to see what you're not seeing, hear what you're not hearing, and to be who you're not being, as the world needs more heart-centered leaders now more than ever. Are you ready to say no to living a half-hearted life and say yes instead to boldly living from a place of real heart alignment? Welcome to the Adam Kiddoo podcast. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Adam Kiddoo podcast. Now, in this episode, I thought it was only fair to share more about the man behind the mic right here. And when I say that, this isn't just a bio or my highlight reel, anything like that. This is actually a deep conversation. And I'm going to recommend that you look at your life, your world in the same lens that I'm taking a look at mine now, because you're going to discover so much more about yourself than you could ever possibly realize. And so in this episode, we're getting down to it. For those of you who know me, you might be thinking, I know Adam. He's the sales guy. He's the heart-centered seller. He's the heart-centered leader. You know, he's got a big heart. He works with James and Jim Ford, some big names, Brandon Lucero. You might think you know me. But there is more to me than meets the eye. And this was a very uncomfortable podcast to flesh out. I actually had visceral reactions. No, you can't say that. No, you can't say that. No, you can't say that. But I've learned to let go of those reactions because that's just my limitations. That's my ego. That is my mind trying to keep me safe, right? Because we all would like to just present ourselves, the highlight reels, the Instagram where we take one photo 500 times, that we just have that one angle that our abs looked good and we felt really good in that picture. They're like, that's a good picture. We don't want to show the flaws and all. We don't want people to see what could possibly come back to make people not like us, right? But I'm here to be open and honest. You know, this whole premise of the podcast, we're talking about real heart alignment. And how am I supposed to lead with alignment if I feel like there's skeletons in the closet, if I feel like there's things that I'm hiding from people? So I'm bearing all, right? And there's probably, this is probably, to be realistic with you, this is probably one phase. There's probably some things that are going to come up after this episode that I'm like, I could have went here. I could have went here. I could have went here. But the thing is, if you want to move forward powerfully in life, if you want to grow, if you want to get momentum, I promise you two things. One is to come to know yourself, not just your personality traits and who you think you are, but so much more about who you really are from an energetic spiritual level, and come to know your habits, your excuses, your limiting behaviors, your beliefs, your thoughts, your worries, your doubts, your insecurities. Know it all. Because the more you know it, the more you can point at it when those arise. And awareness is absolutely huge. So with this entire conversation, we get to know ourselves, but at the same time, we get to let go of that which we think we are. We get to let go of all of the interpretations, all of the labels. And in this episode, that's exactly what I'm doing. So come with me on this journey. And I'm going to start out. And I will start out by saying with some labels, right? Some identity components. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a father of a 18-month-old boy. And a soon to be another baby boy on the way in 6 months. My father. It's a big part of my identity. You know, for those personality junkies, I'm an ENFJ. For the longest time, I thought I was an ENFP. I was actually fooling myself because I wanted to be more like Tony Robbins and Gary Vee, right? But they have different energies than me. And I had a call with a personality specialist who I've come to know and trust that allowed me to see that I was close, but I'm an ENFJ. On the human design chart, I'm a generator. I'm still looking into that a little bit. Pretty fascinating stuff. I'm an innovator on the Colby assessment test. I believe I'm a type 7 on the Enneagram. I don't know. I've taken it a few different times, got some different things, but Enneagram type 7 has come up a couple times with an 8 wing. Okay. So hopefully my personality type test people are like, okay, I'm getting it. I'm a Scorpio. I'm a water baby. I love being around water. I guess that's part of my sign. I realized that somebody shared that with me not too long ago. And when I am feeling off, I will often go drive by this lake that's in our town, and I would just go sit there and I'll connect with that water, and it brings me back home. I was born and raised in a small town in Kansas with less than 10,000 people in this town. Graduating class of just over 100 people. So close knit, in this community, there's not a lot of, I'm getting ready to say there's not a lot of violence, right? There's not a lot of crimes. But one of the things I'll share in a minute is I've been around a fair share of violence. I'll get to that in a second. I'm a C average high school student. I like to get by, right? I like to get by with my grades. I wasn't quite interested in school. I wasn't pushing to thrive and to get the A's and things like that. I didn't really care about school. It was tough for me. It was not easy. I'm an athlete. That was my big identity growing up. I was an athlete, always into sports, always standing out in the athletic field. Even early on, I had a coach of mine, a basketball coach, I believe in 6th, 7th grade, when we really started playing competitively, had an amazing team. And I was the captain. I was the leader on that team. And he told the team, he stopped the team in practice one day and he said, look, you guys, Adam is starting to see things open up before you guys see it open up. So be ready, pay attention. That was a big moment for me because I was starting to realize that too. And that was kind of a cornerstone moment in my life because it allowed me to see and to trust myself a little bit more, that I'm seeing things that other people aren't seeing. And that's the same way in business. I'm a visionary. I look for that which is unseen. I'm not only modeling some of my mentors and finding what works for them, but I'm also seeing what are they missing out on. And I'm seeing what works well for me with my own personality, because I'm telling you, I'm a rebel. If you take the Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendency personality test, I'm a rebel. That means you give me a process and I'm going to make my own spin on it. If I used to rebel against myself so much, right? If I told somebody, hey, look, I'll have this to you on Friday, no doubt about it, it'd be to you on Monday. I just could not follow through. I was not a person of integrity. I was not committed to a lot of things. But through intention, through heart, through my desire to help others, I was able to overcome some of that. And I no longer claim myself to be a rebel. Hey, look, nothing has any meaning except for the meaning I give it. So I can choose how I see myself. I can choose the labels I put on myself, just like you can. This is a big part of this conversation, these labels. I no longer see myself as a rebel unless I choose it to be so. For the longest time, I was sick of my behavior. I was sick of my thoughts about how I was in this world. I was sick about my eating habits. I was sick, that I finally started rebelling against myself. That was my greatest strength as a rebel, to rebel against my old way of being. And it served me to a certain point, but then I still found the rebel was wanting to show up in certain areas that I did not want to rebel against. Being consistent, for one thing. So I decided to let that label go. But being an athlete was a huge part of my life. And in hanging up my cleats in college, I had to lean into my other identity, which was partying. I actually started drinking. I had my first beer. Is kind of funny to say. I had my first beer when I was 12. My first real beer was when I was a toddler, I guess. My mom just brought up this story. She likes to rehash old stories just the other day, to where I was a toddler. They looked away for a minute. I over here chugging this beer. And they're like, whoa. And we've always had beer in the fridge, right? There's always alcohol in the cabinets at home. And there became a certain standpoint that the identity of alcohol and a party guy was so entrenched in me. It's what I grew up with. It's what I became known as in high school and college. People would ask me, what are we doing this weekend? Where's the party at? What are we doing? They were always relying on me for a good time and being, the comedian, the person that's just standing out and just making everybody laugh and being crazy and being drunk and being foolish. That was me. That was my identity. But I'm proud to say at this standpoint, I haven't touched a drink of alcohol in over 1,000 days. So coming up on 3 years. It was getting in my way of my heart. It was getting in my way of my drive of helping more people. I used to have debilitating asthma. There was times where I would just about suffocate. Like I would have so bad asthma that I thought I was going to die. I'd have to sit here and just hold my breath to try to expand my lungs. And just a few years ago, I realized that there was a direct correlation between anxiety and asthma. And I can look back to some of those moments and I can see some of those moments I was actually having an anxiety attack. I was riddled with anxiety, even though people like me and, I'm always entertaining and things like that. I had anxiety. I carried a lot of anxiety with me. Just like all of us, I have had trauma, right? That I had to process and let go of. I've been around well over 30 fights in my life. Growing up, literally at the playgrounds and everything, fights. And I mean, 30, I'm being very, 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 very generous on that side, probably more like 50. And it's crazy. I was about to say earlier, we live in a safe community. There's not a lot of violence. I'm thinking about guns and killing people and all the crazy stuff where you see in a big city. There wasn't a lot of that, but there's a lot of fighting. And it wasn't just fighting for fun. It wasn't like, hey, well, let's just go fight people on the weekend, even though my friends would do that sometimes. They just go looking for fights. Me, I'm a lover. I'm always trying to break up these fights. And I have no idea at this standpoint. I was just thinking about this going through this process. And you guys, I'm about to get into some deeper stuff here. But in going through this process of flushing this out, who is Adam Kiddoo? It really is perplexing to me how many fights have been in my experience in this world. I mean, I even, got in a fight with my dad at one point, and I think there was some emotional baggage around the relationship with my dad because there was times where he wanted to make sure I knew how to fight. And he would not test me, he was not abusive, anything like that, but he would kind of pick on me a little bit. And he would be like, well, what would you do? What would you do? And back then I thought he was being an a-hole, right? But now being a dad, I see he just wanted to make sure that I was safe, that I knew how to take care of myself. I knew how to handle my own. Right. And so I thank him for that now. And it's such a perspective shift. And there was one moment we were playing basketball, right? And I think he got to the point where he was getting tired because I was getting good. I was starting to beat him. A friend of mine was over. He started picking on me like you do sometimes. He started pushing me. What are you going to do? What would you do? What would you do? And so I wanted to show him, hey, look, I can take care of myself. So I kicked him where the sun doesn't shine. I did in all heart. I did not mean to kick him. I wanted to show him, but I kicked him a little bit harder than I anticipated. And he hauled off and slapped me. Right. And there was kind of some choice words and I ended up running off and he came and kind of slid tackled me. I mean, there was always some rough and tough stuff going on as a kid. And it is, I can sit here and say it's part of who I am, but that's only if I choose to allow that to be part of who I am. I do not have to carry that with me. I can let that go because all of that, if I carry that with me, it's baggage. If I need that, yeah, I can pull it out. If my family's in danger, I'm pulling all the resources. But I don't need to carry that with me. I don't need to own that as a part of my identity right now. That's not who I am. And you'll start to see that's the theme of this whole entire conversation. That might have occurred. That might have been an experience, but that's not who I am. I'm an empath, very sensitive to energy. I love hard and I get hurt easily. There's been times in my life where I've actually broken both my hands, broke my right hand twice, had a temper. because I was the type of guy who would get walked on, walked on, walked on, walked on, walked on until I had enough. Kind of like the nice guy. And I'm telling you, if as a nice guy perspective, you don't want to pick on the nice guy. You do not want to pick on the nice guy, right? Because the nice guy is swallowed their tongue, swallowed their pride more times than you know. You don't want to be on the other side of that. And so this was times where alcohol was involved, fights with, and people in my relationships. But that's not who I am. That's not who I am. I've gained and lost over 35 pounds 5 times in my life. That's not who I am. I'm proud to say I've kept the weight off for over 2 years. It still does not define me. I'm compassionate for others, which is leftover residue from when I was depressed back in 2014. I fell into a deep, dark depression. It was so hard for me to do anything. It was so hard for me to try to run my business and to show up. Every single move I made took so much force. I was stuck in lack of inertia. A body at rest stays at rest. I was stuck. Every little decision, every little step, every little thought was so painful. And in that darkest moment gave me one of my greatest gifts. And I had this all along, but it really intensified it tenfold. And that's my compassion for others. I do not want others to experience what I experienced in those dark moments. That for me is deep drive and motivation, inspiration to keep doing what I'm doing, to help others to step up and to share their hearts, to do what's on their hearts. Because the way I see it, we take one step back, one step back, one step back, we're heading to a dark place. But if we take one step forward, one step forward, one step forward, it doesn't matter how quick, it doesn't matter how effective, it doesn't matter any of that, as long as we're moving forward with the intention of helping other people, of growing and evolving. There's power there. I'm an animal lover. Love animals. I'm a nature lover. I love being out in nature. I'm an avid reader. I'm a visionary. I'm a CEO. I'm an entrepreneur coach. I'm a leader. I'm a marketing and messaging strategist. I'm a sales ninja. And again, I'm a podcast host. However, none of that defines me. Here recently, in just over a year's time, I helped enroll over $1 million in sales for my mentors, holding sales calls for them. Where I once used to stutter and stammer and sweat having any conversation around money, enrollment, or sales. It was bad. I would hide for months and months and months after a webinar or after I did a sales call. Months. It was tough. But now, being my heart's on fire to help others to get out of their own damn ways, because we are our greatest ally, but at the same time, we're our own worst enemy. That's why I'm here to claim the past, to collapse it by experiencing it and by letting it go. So this podcast, yet again, is twofold. It's to help you to see who I am and also to help you see who you are. But it's also for me to be able to let all of this go, because I'm telling you, there was one standpoint in my life where I used to try to remember everything. Like literally, it was like I needed to remember everything. It was a safety mechanism. And there was just so much going on in my world, so much I was clinging to, so much I was holding on to from an identity standpoint, from a self-concept standpoint, that I was heavy. And when you're heavy, you cannot fly. And so I'm here to break down the walls, to let go of all of that, to work from a blank slate. The only place you can create anything is from right here, right now. Not from your past accolades, not from your old identities, not from the A student you used to be, from right here, right now. Asking new questions, better questions, more expansive questions to empower you to move forward from a place of knowing trusting yourself, and of heart. But yet again, none of that defines me. I work energetically and spiritually with a shaman by the name of Don Javier, or DX. Spent some time with him personally, connect with him often in dream time. This is where we go off the hinges a little bit. He reminds me greatly of my grandpa George, who passed away in 2006. That was my guy. It was my dude. He meant so much to me. He had an absolute huge heart. In my eyes, he was a leader. He was also in sales. He was the first person in his company back in the early 1980s to cross over $1 million in sales in a year for his company. He was not pushy. He was not extra charismatic. He was none of those things. He was just all heart. He cared about people. He wanted to help. That's why he was so effective in sales. Everyone loved him. My friends loved him. Literally, they'd see him out at sporting events. He wore a sweatshirt with my number on it that said Adam's grandpa. It's my dude. I connect with him deeply. I've still got his plaques from his sales days at his company on my shelves. I look at him often. I connect with him often. Even the little man comes down here. I'll have the little man, I'll be holding him. I got a picture of my grandpa and I up here, and he points at him. Reminds me, stay connected to that dude. You guys have the opportunity too to connect with energy of possible past relatives. Take the best of the best, embody that, and you have an opportunity to connect with energy that is here trying to support you. But if we're clinging to the past, if we're clinging to our identities and who we think we are, and we're trying to figure this whole world out, you'll never get there. You'll never be able to fully connect with this guidance that's here to help you. So back to Don Javier. And what I'll say about my grandpa too, I never saw him angry. I never saw him upset. And when I said earlier about breaking my hands a few times in frustration and anger, proud to say it's been about 6-7 years since I hit a wall or anything. I'm pretty proud of that. It took me in my my early 30s to finally grow out of that. But I mean, I was full of anger. I was full of anger, insecurities, all that. I was a hothead. It takes a lot to shake me these days, a significant amount. With the personal development, the work I've done, it takes a lot to shake me because I've centered myself, and I continue to make sure I work from a centered place. That's one of the reasons I created Heart-Centered Selling Mastery. It's not just about selling. It's not just about leading with your heart, but it's also being in your strength and your personal power. And that's another caveat of this conversation, is you can take the best of the best and be in your personal power without clinging to all the stuff in the past. So back to Don Javier. I got the chance to meet personally with him and spend some time with him 2 different times in 2019. And at the end of our second gathering, I got the opportunity to give that man a hug. And it fried my sockets. Never experienced anything like this on earth before. He gave me a hug, and I literally felt a tremendous force of energy, of love energy, blast through my chest. It freaking blew me away. I had no idea what happened. And what's even crazier is right before I went up to him, and basically the whole night, I just knew, I was like, I've spent time with this guy. Even though my grandfather and him have similar energy, that's not the energy I was connecting to. I know that I've spent time somewhere, someplace, another lifetime with Don Javier. And when I was walking up to him, I had this urge, this intense urge to tell him, I missed you. I missed you. And you know what he said to me before I even thought to speak to him to say that? Because, thought that would be weird. Guess what he said to me? I missed you. And then he gave me a hug, and it freaking fried my sockets. Now, I've had different spiritual, let's just say, awakenings I've done energy work with a Reiki healer to where I could feel my ego trying to fight tooth and nail to distract me away from tapping more into my spiritual side. When I was meeting with Don Javier the first time, my body was riddled with aches and pains because my body was fighting to keep me in this physical world. My ego was fighting to stay in charge, but I know better. Ever since I was a kid, I was able to sense energy. I had an outer body experience when I was about 10 years old. I watched myself play basketball for about 20 minutes from a block away when I was 10 years old, sitting there watching basketball. I can still vividly experience that right now. It was the wildest thing. I never told anybody until high school when a teacher of mine was talking about an outer body experience. And it was just, okay, I'm not crazy. Also, as a kid, I used to get hit with energy to where my whole body would go numb, and not, tingly numb, like asleep, like your legs asleep, nothing like that. Just, I can't even explain it. I mean, I wish I could. But everything would slow down. I was literally in slow motion. My thoughts were in slow motion. My whole senses were in slow motion. And I was just so confused. And I would try to explain to my parents sometimes what was happening, but from their reality, they had no idea. They never heard about anything like this. But I've always been sensitive to energy. I just always felt presence. Something else is going on. And it's even wild to think about now or talk about now. And I know this is crazy. And I don't care. You can label me as crazy. That's just another identity that I'm choosing not to hold on to. None of that stuff defines me. I'm so sensitive to energy. And it's a gift and it's a curse. I can sense people's energies. I can read energy. I can read people. That's one of the reasons that I'm a phenomenal coach. And I'm not afraid to say that I'm a phenomenal coach. Right? That's an identity, I guess, having some fun here that I'm okay with. Nothing has any meaning except for the meaning you give it. That's part of my life right now. It's coaching people, even though it's so much more than coaching people. Because a coach is a coach. There's a lot of coaches out there. I always strive to do things differently and speak to the people I work with at a much deeper level, because I'm not just consulting. I'm not just solving some problems. I'm not just giving advice. We're working on a deep energetic level, just like we're doing now. There's so much more going on than we could ever sense with our five senses. And when you can start to slow down and stop your own world, look around a little bit, trust yourself. Don't let your thoughts talk you out of every little experience you've had, because chances are you've had some amazing, energetic, spiritual experiences here on this life, but your thoughts are going to talk you out of it right away if you let them. I've also survived a tremendous amount of close calls with wrecks and just different things happening to where it's surprising to me and not surprising whatsoever at all that I'm still here. There's work to be done. And I feel like I've been being protected up to this standpoint. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I feel that I have been protected numerous times on numerous occasions. All of this does not define me. This is not who I am. So who am I really? Did I really just do this whole podcast to say that's not who I am? But think about it. If I asked 100 people, I'd get 100 different answers. So in all reality, I am whoever you think I am. And I am none of that at the exact same time. You are all of your past labels as well, while being none of those at the exact same time too. Your past does not define you. And if you carry it with you, if you cling to labels, you're carrying a tremendous amount of baggage with you. And that baggage, it makes you heavy. And when you're heavy, you cannot fly. And we need people who can fly right now. We need more people who are seeing things faster, who are open up to new experiences, who are seeing possibility that most people don't see. We need more people who are living from a place of heart-centered alignment to lead this world. And I'm not even talking about going to the top and leading and being president. Lead where you are. If you change one person's life, you've changed the world. I don't think people get that. If I do this whole episode sharing my past and letting go of the labels, if it helps one person to let go of something, I've changed the world. And I don't need to sit here for 5 weeks holding on to this idea anymore. I used to cling so hard to things. I did a video in 2014, my very first video I published online. I recorded it 20 freaking times. And you can see in that video, I mean, you guys go back to my personal profile, go to my video section and watch my very first video. I was a different dude. That was only 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. I was riddled with anxiety. I was living from a place of fear, scarcity, doubt, worry. I was so tight and tense. I literally felt like my head could just explode. Like my head will just pop off my neck. I was so freaking tense. I was so worried about what other people think. I was so worried about how other people saw me. And what you guys don't realize is how people see you. If you feed into how people see you, that's not perception. That's actually distortion. That will distort your own experience. That will distort the work you're here to do if you feed into the thought of how others see you. All of that stuff does not define you. Your latest Facebook Live does not define you. Your latest sales call does not define you. Your latest offer, your presentation does not define you. It is not who you are. Your thoughts do not define you. Your emotions do not define you. Your credentials and labels do not define you. None of it does. For me, though, I see you. It's my greatest gift. I see the absolute best in people. And there's been people in my life who have saw the absolute best in me before I was able to see it as well. And so those who are more awake and aware, they can elevate your whole entire being while you're here. But you must let go of who you think you are and who you think others think you are. You must let go of that. If you want momentum, if you want alignment, if you want to lead, if you want abundance, you must let go. And I'm pleading with you. I mean, I'm feeling this right now. You must let go. I'm not my body. I'm not my name. I'm not my ego. I'm none of these things. And I'm all of those things at the exact same time. At the core of me, I am love. I am light. I am heart-centered energy, just like all of you. Just like you. No labels, no past events or circumstances will ever define me or take away who I truly am. Same goes for you. I am pure positive potentiality, just like you. I am a cosmic being here having a human experience, just like you. I'm here to help people to grow and evolve just like you. I am a light of love, just like you. I am me. I am you. You are you. You are me. I am nothing and I am everything at the same time. I am perfection and I am chaos. I am what I am. Labels and interpretations do not define me. My thoughts do not define me. Your thoughts of me do not define me. The same goes for you, my friend. And another way of saying this, I am that which I am not. Therefore, just like you, my friend, I am. Much love to you guys. Thank you. Just be you. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Adam Kiddoo podcast. If you would, take a moment to subscribe and click the bell icon so that way you get notified when future episodes air. Now, here's the thing. If you are looking for the show notes, you can find a link to those below. If you're looking for the handles of the guests that I've been interviewing, things of that nature, you'll find that here. And if there's anything else that stood out to you in the episode, or if there's anything I can do for you, please leave a comment below, or for sure message me on Instagram if you'd like, as I'm always looking to hear what's working well for you and what caught your interest about the Adam Kiddoo podcast. So, time to go, time to change the world, time to help more people. Are you ready? Let's go do this thing. The world needs more leaders. So thanks again for listening to the Adam Kiddoo podcast.